and welcome to the Expertly German podcast, the podcast to learn German. Hallo und herzlich willkommen zum Expertly German Podcast, dem Podcast zum Deutschlernen. Und in der heutigen Episode beschäftigen wir uns mit dem Reisen. Reisen, wir haben Sommer, es ist August oder zumindest fast immer noch August und viele Leute reisen herum. Und wir wollen euch ein bisschen Vokabeln beibringen zum Thema Reisen. So in this episode we will talk about traveling. It's August or like almost August. By the time you hear it, it's probably September. And so it's traveling time, and some of you probably want to know how to, well, you know, what vocabulary to say at an airport, or what to say, what you've done or what you will do at a holiday. And this is what we are going to learn today. Are you ready, Luisa?
So ready.
Cool. So what is, by the way, to travel in German? What's
der Reise?
Just reisen, that's the
Reisen.
verb. Die Reise is the travel, the journey, die Reise. But reisen, just as a verb, is to travel. All right, so let's talk about the airport. What is the word for airport?
Der Flughafen.
Ja, der Flughafen. And how would we now say something like, could you please bring me to the airport?
Like in a taxi.
Yeah.
Bitte fahren Sie mich zum Flughafen.
Ja, bitte fahren Sie mich zum Flughafen. When you say the zum, you have to say the Z sharp.
Zum
Flughafen. So please, so the direct translation would be bitte fahren Sie mich zum Flughafen. Please drive you polite me to the airport. And then we would just say in German also Terminal 1, Terminal 2. Yeah. So pretty much like in English. And if it would be the train station, what would it be then?
Ooh, I'm always trying to remember my articles. Is it der Bahnhof?
Der Bahnhof, exactly.
Hof, Bahnhof.
Der Bahnhof. So bitte fahren Sie mich zum Bahnhof. We are currently in France, so you know it's la gare, der Bahnhof. So, and if you're kind of now in the situation and you're saying I'm traveling from, let's say, Berlin to Barcelona, how would you say that? Saying the flight number and maybe also the company that you're flying with, the airline.
Well, I know this because it's really recently that we just had to do this. So, ich reise von Berlin nach Barcelona.
Ja.
Mit EasyJet.
Very good, that one. You have
yes, yeah. Die Flugnummer, is that right?
Yeah.
Flugnummer ist, I don't know, FR.
Yeah, and then some
XXX.
flight number, exactly.
Yeah.
So again, ich reise von Berlin nach Barcelona mit EasyJet. So here the prepositions are important, right? Ich reise, simple, easy conjugation here in the present tense. And then von, like V-O-N, von Berlin, like from Berlin, nach Barcelona. You could also say that like von Deutschland nach Spanien, right? So it can be a city or it can be a country, and the prepositions that we use is von and nach. And then with whatever EasyJet and Ryanair and all the other airlines, British Airways and so on, and then we say mit. And then die Flugnummer ist blah, blah, blah. Cool. All right. And so what always annoys me is the luggage. How can I complain about that in German, about the luggage?
How can I complain about it?
Yeah.
Is that something you do often, Tom?
Yes.
I don't know. You could say it was heavy or something like that. So what's luggage? Is it das Gepäck?
Yes, das Gepäck.
Gepäck.
Not das Gebäck, because that's like the pastry that you eat, but that's with a B. And das Gepäck with a P. P and then the umlaut is the luggage. Das Gepäck. Exactly. And now how would you say the luggage is heavy?
Das Gepäck ist schwer.
Yes, exactly. Das Gepäck ist schwer.
Oder teuer.
Oder teuer, exactly.
Yeah. Oder schwer und teuer.
And how would you say something like I have to bring the luggage to the check-in?
It's a really great question, Tom. How would I say that? I should take
Ja,
that. I mean, carry nehmen? Would you say like ich nehme?
well, check-in is if you have to like give it first to the airline, right?
But
And then
wasn't that called check-in at the
yes,
airport?
exactly. It's called like that in German. Der Check-in-Schalter. Schalter is something like the, I don't know, the account or like
The counter?
the counter. Yeah, exactly. So der Check-in-Schalter. Ich muss mein Gepäck noch zum Check-in-Schalter bringen. I have to bring my luggage to the check-in counter. Cool. Okay. So, how would you answer to my question? Wann geht unser Flug oder wann startet unser Flug?
I feel like you're saying something like, when is the flight going?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you could also say wann geht unser Flieger. It's a colloquial way to say when does. That's what I would say to kind of my family and so on in a very
Unser
colloquial.
Flieger.
Yeah, wann geht unser Flieger? When does our flyer? When does our plane go? Wann geht unser Flieger? Oder wann startet unser Flug? When starts our flight?
And so you'd say something like, unser Flug, would you say like
Yeah.
5 Uhr gestartet?
No, just well, if you will want to say unser Flug startet 5 Uhr. That is the future.
Okay.
In this case, you don't have to use the Futur here because if you indicate a future time, you can say it in the present tense. Like saying something like ich werde einen Kaffee kaufen. You could also say morgen kaufe ich einen Kaffee. The second one was in the present tense, just using the tomorrow's time.
Okay. So if
Whilst
someone asks, when do we depart? You would say, our flight departs at 5. You would say it how?
unser Flug startet 5 Uhr.
Okay.
Oder die Abflugszeit, the departure time, die Abflugszeit ist 5 Uhr. And then obviously maybe ask am Nachmittag oder am Vormittag. Well, in Germany you could say 17 Uhr.
Or you could say like morgen or
Yeah, morgen.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Wann kommen wir an?
Okay, so that's when. Is that when? Well, it's like when do we come, right? But like, do you mean like when do we arrive or when do we
yes,
land?
so the kommen is to come, but ankommen is literally to arrive. So the wann kommen wir an, that's a little prefix that you have to put at the end of the sentence if it's a present tense.
And when you're saying when do we arrive, does that only work really when you're flying? Like when do we land, or is that? Can you say that also if you're in a taxi, for example? Like when do we arrive at the restaurant?
Yes, yeah, exactly. If you can, yeah, if you're like me, always complaining and asking,
we
when
there
do
yet?
you arrive?
Are we there
Exactly.
yet?
Then you can, wann kommen wir an? Exactly. Yeah, you can
Okay.
say that. And then you
But-
say, wir kommen in 2 Stunden an.
Wir kommen in 2 hours.
Yeah.
But can you also say it before you get into the taxi? Like, you know what I mean? Or
Ah.
before you get onto the flight, would you say, when are we landing?
Yes, you could say that. Yeah. Then I
don't
would
s-
say maybe, wie lang ist die Fahrt? How long is the drive? Wie lang ist die Fahrt? Oder wann kommen wir ungefähr an? When do we arrive approximately?
Yeah, and could you also say, like, wann kommen wir an in Spanien? Like, you know, when do we arrive in Spain? But
Yeah,
you're
you
asking
could.
it like the week before or something.
Yeah, you could say that. But yeah, wann kommen wir in Spanien an? You could
Okay.
say that. All right. So next one, the passport. Probably the most important item on every traveler's luggage.
No, to be fair,
No?
our constant check is like, do you have your passport? Do you have your phone? Do you have your credit cards?
Good.
You can
Yes.
survive anything if you have these 3 things.
So phone is very simple. Das Handy in German. And then the passport is der Reisepass. And then das Portemonnaie, I would say, oder Kreditkarte. Kreditkarte, credit card, and portemonnaie is the wallet. That's what we would say. Well, there are some.
Wallet for girls is the same?
Yes.
Huh.
Das Portemonnaie. There are
Portemonnaie.
some other words, but yeah, that's what I think I used most of the time. All right. So, woher kommen Sie und wohin möchten Sie? That's sometimes what people ask you at the when you register, when you
Like
arrive
passport
at the
controls or something?
exactly. So that woher kommen Sie und wohin möchten Sie means what?
Where are you coming from and where do you want to go?
Yes, exactly. Where would you like to go? And what would you answer then?
So I would be saying like I come from Berlin and I've gone to France.
Okay.
So ich komme aus Berlin und ich fliege nach Frankreich.
Yes. And in order to do what?
Visit family.
Familie zu besuchen. Oder meine Familie zu besuchen.
Okay, yeah.
And then
But
you
if it was
could,
for like work or
yes,
something, you'd just say
wegen der Arbeit.
altogether?
Yes. Just, ich komme aus Berlin und ich fliege nach Frankreich wegen der Arbeit.
Nice. Okay.
Oder ich bin auf Geschäftsreise. I'm on a business trip. Ja. All right. So now let's do a little bit of like creating some sentences.
I mean,
Yes?
there are a million other phrases and sentences that you and I
Yes.
use and desperately when traveling. So I think we might have to do a few more scenarios on the lab bit there. But we'll come back to that because I think you'll kill me if we go into the detail
All right.
just yet.
Cool. So let's do a little bit of grammar. I know you try to avoid it, but we have to go through it. So let's do it. So I would like to do a little bit on present, past, and future. So for the present, you would ask, was machst du im Urlaub? That means, what are you doing on holiday? Was hast du im Urlaub gemacht? That would be what?
What have you done on your holiday?
Yeah, or what did you do on your holiday? And then, was wirst du im Urlaub machen is?
What will you do on your holiday?
Exactly. And can you remind the listeners again how to say a sentence in the present tense, in the present perfect, which is the past we are using here, and then in the future?
So in our previous episode, we were using things like going for a coffee. So this is simple and I can remember it. Present tense would be ich kaufe einen Kaffee.
Yeah, you just use the normal verb there, ich kaufe, and you just conjugate it, nothing else, and then just einen Kaffee, yeah?
Yep. The past would have been ich habe einen Kaffee gekauft.
Exactly. And here you're putting the auxiliary verb haben or sein when it's about movement or change. Here it's not about movement or change. Einen Kaffee gekauft, and then this GE verb or past participle, we put that then at the end. Cool. And now the future.
Ich werde einen Kaffee kaufen.
Yes. What do we have to do here?
So we've got the werde conjugated in the second place in the sentence, and then we move the kaufen verb to the very end, and
Yes.
we leave it unconjugated.
Yes. Beautiful. Exactly.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So how would you now say I go to the beach?
Good question. Now here's a question. Ich gehe zum.
Yes. Ich gehe zum Strand.
I was getting to the strand part.
Oh,
I
sorry.
was just the some thing is still a thing that I'm working on, and whether or not I should have said der or if the some removes the need to say the article. Like I go to the beach.
So zu is a preposition after you always have to use the dative case. That's the third case. And Strand is masculine. That's why der changes to dem. So ich gehe zu dem Strand or ich gehe zum Strand. How would you now say that in the past? I went to the beach?
Because it's also movement, right? Ich gehe.
Yes.
Oh. And so with the past tense, it's either habe or bin or well, sein as the two options to conjugate.
Very good.
So, yeah, right, yeah.
Ich bin.
Ich bin, would I say der Strand?
Zum Strand.
Zum Strand. Ich bin zum Strand.
Gegangen? Yes, gegangen, exactly. You could also say an den Strand. Ich bin an den Strand gegangen, aber zum Strand is also good. And how would you say I will go to the beach?
Ich würde zum Strand gehen.
Yes. I
Gehen seems to throw me because of the gegangen, and I'm like, just one more second to conjugate that one.
How would you say I want to go to the beach because I want to get a 10? Don't worry, I just want to teach the listeners a little bit the word order after weil, which is the because.
So I am super typical English skin, cannot get a tan. Let's change it to I want to go to the beach to swim.
Okay.
More realistic for me.
Let's
so
do it.
I'm not sure. Would it be ich würde?
Ich werde, ja.
Ich werde zum Strand. Would you say like
gehen? Ich werde zum Strand gehen, Komma, weil?
Oh, is that how you do it? You'd
Yes.
add on the because at the end of that.
Yes. Well, you have
Ich
first the
werde,
main clause, then you have a comma, and then you have a subordinate
so
clause.
ich werde zum Strand gehen,
Comma.
weil
Ja.
ich schwimme. Ich würde schwimmen.
Weil ich schwimmen werde. So when you introduce the weil, which is a conjunction, sorry, actually a subjunction, which was one of those connector words, then you have to kick the conjugated verb to the end of that. So you could also use it in the present tense, saying, ich gehe zum Strand, weil ich schwimmen möchte. And the möchte is
Yeah.
then the conjugated verb.
And so
Because
do
I
it
would
again
like,
in the Würde tense. So do that.
ich werde zum Strand gehen, weil ich schwimmen werde. So then we have, what do we have? Hiking. How would you say a sentence with hiking?
What? Just wir wandern zusammen?
Yes, wir wandern zusammen. We hike together. Yes, exactly. You could
Jeden
say that.
Tag?
Jeden Tag, yeah.
And jeden
Exactly.
Tag go at the end. Wir
Je-
wandern
Wir
zusammen.
wandern jeden Tag zusammen. Jeden Tag wandern wir zusammen. At the end is less common.
Okay.
It's time, manner, place. Wir wandern jeden Tag zusammen. So time, then manner, and then place. Wir wandern jeden Tag in der Stadt zusammen, or something like that. Cool. All right. Then we have, what else do? You grill, where you barbecue with friends?
Yes, a lot.
How would you say that?
Again, would you just say like wir grillen mit grillen? I hate that. Wir
I
grillen.
chose this word specifically
I mean, it's like the R
so
and
that
the L's.
you have
Wir
to struggle.
grillen mit Freunden.
Yes.
And again, if I want to do the whole jeden Tag, so jeden Tag.
Wir grillen mit Freunden in Frankreich.
Oh, wir grillen mit Freunden in Frankreich.
Beautiful. Yes, exactly. So for your listeners, if you struggle with the R, you're not the only one. There are many of my clients who struggle with the R. There's only practice. Only practice can help you. Cool. All right. So, and we ate delicious food in the restaurant.
Wir haben leckeres Essen im Restaurant.
Just pretend to be French. That doesn't help. All
No,
right.
it does not help.
Restaurant.
Restaurant. Wir haben leckeres Essen im Restaurant gegessen.
Ja, wir haben leckeres Essen im Restaurant gegessen. We ate delicious food in the restaurant. And how would you now say that, like, let's say you will or we will eat delicious food in the restaurant if you're not
Wir
there yet?
werden
Yeah.
essen. No, wir werden leckeres Essen im Restaurant essen.
Yes, correct. Exactly. Wir werden leckeres Essen im Restaurant essen. So, well, essen, the first essen in that sentence is food. The second one is to eat. It's actually the same word.
Yeah,
But
it's not
just-
the best of you, Deutschland, for that one. That
Well-
one's like a real. But
We-
what was worse for me was that you change it for animals. I'm constantly forgetting
Oh,
to sort
fressen.
of make it fressen for animals. I
Fressen.
still just say essen.
Okay, and how would you now say that in the present tense? We are eating delicious food in the restaurant?
Wir essen leckeres Essen
Yes.
im Restaurant.
Yes, there's also a city in Germany which is called Essen.
Obviously.
Yeah, so wir essen leckeres Essen in
In
Essen.
Essen.
Yes, exactly. So that's also
Natürlich.
all right. That was, how do you call those, dad jokes, right? All right. Now the day trip. How would you say day trip in German?
Day trips. Is it
Ausflug.
Tagesausflug? Why
Yeah.
is it Tagesausflug?
Well, because it's a day's trip, like an outfly, but it's just a trip. Der Ausflug.
Day
It's-
outside.
When you say an Ausflug, that's kind of like a longer trip. You don't. If I go for a 1 hour, I don't know, trip or something like that, then I wouldn't say an Ausflug. But I go for like a longer, almost like a day trip, then I say einen Ausflug. Could also be a weekend.
Can you say Ausflug without the Tages?
Yes, you could say that. But if you want to specifically say that's only a day's trip, then I would say der Tagesausflug rather than einen
Der.
Ausflug. But it's der. Okay, cool. So we are doing a day trip to a city nearby.
And so we're doing a day trip. Like, is that machen or is that gehen or
Ja, wir machen
so? Would you just say that? Wir machen
einen
einen Tagesausflug zu einer Stadt in der
Nähe.
Nähe.
Yes,
Ja,
wir machen einen Tagesausflug zu einer Stadt in der Nähe.
in der Nähe.
Exactly. All right, guys. And now, if someone kind of asks you how your holiday was, you're in the office or I don't know, somewhere meeting friends back home, you are probably want to tell them a couple of sentences in German. And I help you now to say those sentences. However, here we would usually use the Präteritum. Why? That's a different time in a different tense in the past. And we use that for storytelling or the written German. And just look up Präteritum German. The internet tells you a lot of things. And what you just usually do here is you use the verb and you conjugate that into its Präteritum form. You are not creating this auxiliary verb haben and sein and then the ge verb at the end. You just use the original verb and create the Präteritum form.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So the things that we've just been talking about, like we went hiking or we went to the beach or something like that. So the tenses that we've used there are, say someone says to you, "Oh, what did you do?" And you say, "Oh, we went hiking," or it's like you're giving one sentence responses.
Yeah.
Then the tenses that we've just practiced are applicable for that.
Yes.
But if you're saying, for example,
Yes.
like, oh, and you sit back and someone says like, "Tell us all about it," and you
Yes.
sat back talking for a couple of minutes and you're summarizing.
Yes.
It was like this, and we did this, and da 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 da. Then you would use this
correct.
different tense, and so rather than saying "ich werde" or "wir haben da 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 da," you're using a different conjugation altogether, which is
Yes.
Italian. So can you give us like an example of that now? Like, say this is the case. You come back from your holiday, and I say to you, Tom, like, how was it? Like, tell me everything. Can you just like?
Yes.
And we can talk afterwards, like, what was that change that you made to those verbs and pick it out?
All right. So I would say, unser Urlaub war wunderschön. Wir waren für eine Woche in Spanien. Wir hatten sehr schönes Wetter. Wir haben viele Dinge unternommen. Wir wanderten, wir schwammen im Meer oder wir grillten mit Freunden.
Ah, super. How would I say, like, it? That sounds awesome or something like that.
Das hört sich wundervoll an.
And then, like, where did you go in Spain?
Oder something that also a lot of people would say it's großartig, which is something like the German version of saying great. Großartig.
Großartig. And how would I say, like, where did you go in Spain?
Wo seid ihr in Spanien gewesen? Where have you been in Spain?
I'm just getting carried away with our role play now.
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to break down what you said and where that like Präteritum came in?
All right. So unser Urlaub war wunderschön. There the war is the Präteritum because that's the verb sein.
Okay.
And then I create here the Präteritum version, which is war. And then wir waren für eine Woche in Spanien, like we were for 1 week in Spain. Then wir hatten sehr schönes Wetter.
That's very important.
Yeah, wir hatten sehr schönes Wetter. And then here actually I could say wir unternahmen viele Dinge. That's actually I said wir haben viele Dinge unternommen, but the Präteritum here would be wir unternahmen viele Dinge. It's actually even better to say that. Then wir wanderten rather than wir sind gewandert. Wir wanderten. And instead of wir sind geschwommen, wir schwammen im Meer oder wir grillten rather than wir haben gegrillt. Wir unternahmen viele Dinge, wir wanderten, wir schwammen im Meer und wir grillten mit Freunden.
That makes sense. I feel like it's helpful just to write out what would you say to your friend, try and think it through, like how you'd summarize your trip or something, or a trip you've done recently, and like you said, that casual 3 or 4 sentences, and then you could translate always what you say, isn't it?
All right, cool guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much and bis bald.